Hello, friends. This is the AlphaList podcast. I am your host, Tobi. The goal of the AlphaList podcast is to empower CTOs with the info and insight they need to make the best decisions for their company. We do this by hosting top thought leaders and picking their brains for insights into technical leadership and tech trends. If you believe in the power of accumulated knowledge to accelerate growth, make sure to subscribe to this podcast. Plus, if you're an experienced CTO, you will love the discussion happening in our Slack space where over 600 CTOs are sharing insights, or visit one of our events. Just go to alphalist.com to apply. Welcome to the AlphaList podcast. I am your host, Tobi, and today's episode has the show title, Two CTO Dinosaurs versus Today's Tech Hype. And I'm talking to Raz, and Raz is the CTO of auxmoney. And yeah, we fell in love when we first met and thought it makes sense to record an episode where we talk about all the myths and all the hypes that waste resources in modern life and companies, especially in tech. So welcome, Raz.
Thanks for having me, Tobi. Absolutely. I think our first talk was kind of led into this podcast because both of us were basically kind of venting to each other about us being dinosaurs in this new environment, new age environment. I'm super happy to actually do this, and just a very big by the way, I used to have a podcast myself, and I have not recorded an episode for so many years because I got sick of speaking in podcasts after recording, 30 episodes or so. So weirdly enough, a bit stressed about doing this. It's been 3-4 years since I recorded an episode. So that's kind of nice to, put myself in a position of putting myself under stress a bit.
So then I'm super proud to have you here. And you're CTO of auxmoney since May 24, so that's like a bit more than a year. And you personally have like a 17-year history in tech, and are currently arm wrestling a PHP monolith into a more modular monolith, or like, do you kill microservices again, or what's your job right now?
I think my job right now, if I'll need to summarize it, is to sign off on risks from tech side, honestly. So to the monolith versus non-monolith, and that will be part of our discussion. One of those risks for me was to sign off, is it a rewrite? Is it a Strangler pattern to microservices? Is it a monolith? That also applies for, 17 years. CTO is also a lot of cloud costs, cybersecurity, data, and so on. So all the fun topics. So that's basically my day-to-day summarized, I guess.
And before you worked at Delivery Hero. Yes. So I think you also captured some knowledge about like how to build a platform and how to not build a platform, maybe. I don't know if you want to talk about that as well. And you're from Israel originally, right?
Correct. I'm from Israel. 11 years in Berlin, but born in Israel.
Cool. So yeah, let's get it started. Super pumped to have you here. Maybe we start with your early years. Like, I don't know, did you serve in that 2800 unit in Israel, or what's your history? Like, how did you end up in tech? Like, why are you here?
No, I'm my military service is not in the tech part of the Israeli army. Honestly, I started, like I guess many of us, very cliched. Started as a kid, got interested in computers. I think my parents got me like a 286 when I was 9, with a CGA screen where you basically I'm pretty sure I remember Norton Commander, like the blue thing with no mouse that you can actually have your file system with a UI. And I just kind of fell in love weirdly with trying to figure out how it works. So like many kids, tearing up the computer and trying to assemble it again was number one task that I started doing. And then after that, trying to figure out how can I write my own software. There's like if I remember correctly, I remember there was like a doctor something that you can ask questions on DOS and basically gave you answers to what it could be, which is just a very nice decision tree for the early 90s. And I learned Pascal to try to make it work and realize that this is really difficult. And kind of that's how I started actually writing code as a, I don't know, 10, 11-year-old of my free time.
And then you accidentally stumbled into the web at a certain point, or?
Basically, I think the web kind of happened mainly more when I went to university and I finished my degrees and so on, and job, life brought me into the web. But the passion to write, just nonsense code, C++ and Pascal was how I kind of got into the idea of even studying computer science, honestly.
What happened then? Like you got your first job as an engineer, or what was that? Like what was your first stop?
This is where maybe us being a bit grumpy old people, that's a good story. So my first job was actually a QA engineer. I think I was in my studies, and I remember it was approximately 2007. It was relatively after the bubble burst, kind of. So hiring was back again in 2007, but for juniors, it was quite tough to find jobs. So if you were a student developer or a junior developer, jobs weren't existing. And I will actually parallelize it to today, because I know it actually is quite a thing still today. And I remember a lot of the people I went to university with told me, don't accept a QA job. Basically, wait it out, because otherwise you'll be pegged as QA. I really didn't care, because I just wanted to start my career and actually try stuff out and learn on the go. I always find myself to be more of a person that learns by doing rather than learning theoretically. So I joined as a QA. I did my role as a QA. And then through, the job itself and showing eagerness, a position in software engineering kind of came to be. I also did tons of, automation, just played around as a QA to say, you don't need to do this thing every day. I always say that we engineers are lazy mofos. We will try to automate everything we can anyway if we see it. So that mentality came. And I think this is a really great path for people that are trying to get into tech today, to also be a bit more flexible on the positions and roles, and not to just chase a dream job, but rather have an opening, prove yourself, and then within the org, it's much easier to move, especially in times where it's a bit tougher, because we are currently in a bit of a tough time, especially for juniors. I think seniors in general, when you're good, you'll find a job always. So kind of like as a advice from an old person that done it himself, the opening to a position is really great right now.
But we explicitly said we don't want to talk too much about AI today, and you said like job market is hard for juniors. Do you think this will stay like that? I'm like recently again and again thinking about like maybe it's also a slight chance for juniors, because many let's say older engineers or very senior people do things how they ever did them, right? Like to basically continue riding the path, which is now maybe super disturbed or super hit by a bus, basically.
Yeah.
How do you see that?
That's a good one. We're now touching the AI topic, not like every other cliche
just for
podcast.
1 minute.
No, I'm not complaining. It's all good. I actually think, so it's such a tough topic because we are in the beginning of this. We don't know. The positives, one, let's all put it out there, right? Both of us know, if you put 3 seniors in a room to give you a solution, the 3 of them will have 6 different solutions, and each solution will not work with the other, because senior people, they have history and opinions, and the way I do stuff doesn't necessarily mean that this is how you would want to do stuff. And that's why we need to have a better, team dynamics, right? You want to have maybe 30% of the team is senior, 40% are mids that can do stuff, and the other 30% are people that want to learn. So in general, we want juniors. And now comes the other part. The good is, I think it's never been easier to start as a junior with vibe coding, with actually testing stuff out. But I think the path to become a senior will be quite tricky. I remember when I joined, we just started with Stack Overflow, and we were copy pasting stuff from Stack Overflow and just making minor changes.
Yeah.
Now you don't even need to you don't
need to copy paste anymore.
Yes, it's basically writing itself in, but comes the question, when will you learn, and also what will you focus on? But also don't want to be like an old grumpy person, because I can share my wife's father, for example, was a developer back in the 70s, right? And it's a different world. And I talked to him about, more clean code principles, craftsmanship principles, solid principles. And he was like, this is all nonsense. Where do you manage memory? How do you, where's your garbage collection and all those things? And no, it's all about readability, because we don't care about those things anymore. It could be that the future will be another abstraction layer where we don't care necessarily about the bits and bolts of software engineering. It's going to be more communication with the machine and trying to figure out what's the business logic. I don't know. It's a weird, crazy environment, and I'm not going to be a person to be quoted then to later say something stupid. Yeah, because I don't know where we're going, honestly.
Yeah, me neither. Let's skip that for today. I mean, even if it's a nice topic to just think about it. When you entered the company, when you started at auxmoney, there was, I think, no CTO for how many years?
Basically forever. I mean, I know that there was once one for a bit, but in general, no actual CTO is the definition of CTO that I have for the 17 years of the company.
And you basically do peer-to-peer lending. So I could imagine that there are some requirements, like regulatory requirements and also quality requirements that you needed to hit. Like, did that always work without someone? Like, is your CEO also like super technical, or how does that work?
I mean, just to kind of clarify, auxmoney doesn't do peer-to-peer. It started like that. Right now, it's consumer lending. So it's basically kind of doing kind of simple, fair digital consumer lending for people. And now to the question of how, I mean, we also have a mutual colleague. So we had a very, very strong vice president of engineering who was basically in touch on the day-to-day software engineering, and build it up to the position where we are right now, which is great and amazing to have. And I have the pleasure to work with him still, which is also fun and amazing. And of course, there is the parts where, and this is why I always claim there always needs to be a C level in the C-suite. That's the position where you sit and you can actually have more of strategic role where we need to go. Those things are the things that I'm trying to kind of tackle right now. But if you ask me as far as regulatory wise and what feature wise and what got auxmoney to where it did, I think the team did a phenomenal job. Where we want to go is now where I think the position was at some point required that to have as more of an overview of more than the software engineering topics, as we all know, data, infrastructure, costs, regulation, and implementation of regulation. These are all parts of the CTO boring, terrible job.
So you're now the one who annoys everyone in the room because like all of a sudden like things get harder and you like don't continue with microservices, or like what's the biggest battleground then that you hit?
So to be fair, when I joined, I hit a battleground quite immediately. Let's start with the first battleground. No matter what, it's very cliche to say, but still is building trust. But the problem is when you join and there is a decision that you completely disagree with, is how do you build trust by shutting down something that the team was pushing for? So when I joined, there was a big shift into doing a rewrite of the system, or basically disassembling the monolith into microservices. My general gut feeling is, as a person who, again, we both are going to this from this point of dinosaur CTO, right? I remember since 2011, every job I took up to Deliver Hero in 2019, all of them had the same story. We're hiring people, we have a monolith, we want to bring the tech team to now disassemble the monolith into microservices. In that span of 8 years, I've never seen any microservice any rewrite replace the monolith. Never. It never happens. So I was like, unless there is a really, really good business value that we can quantify for this 2-year insane project, I would say let's pause and think and rethink about this thing.
Let's rewrite the whole thing. That's I would say it's not necessarily microservices, but it's like the CTO who enters and then starts the rewrite, right? Like, I don't like this language, I don't like this, I don't like that. I like microservices more than monoliths. Or like a team that comes to that conclusion at a certain point, like, hey, we have to get rid of Elixir, we want to move to Node.js. And that takes years and is often like doesn't help anyone, right?
Absolutely. So just to be fair, when I joined as well, I think in my interview process, even someone asked me, "What do you think about PHP?" And I said, "It works. You have probably 100 years plus experience in PHP. Do you need anything that PHP doesn't do?" And people are like, "Not really. But, well, if we write new services, we can look into that and do something else happily." But even with that, I wouldn't take a tier 1 critical service and write it in, I don't know, I'm just going to give an example of whatever trendy now, Rust, where we can't hire anyone that does Rust. We have zero experience in Rust. Our infrastructure also and every tooling that we've created is not really built for that. So we need to probably rethink a lot of what we have. Observability, CI/CD, yada, yada, yada. So all those things becomes hurdles. It's not going to help us. So unless Rust solves the problem, I would say let's choose the hammer we know to the nail we already know that works with that hammer and move on. But you also want to keep it fun, right? Like, we are also engineers and I also want to give the people chances. So in a good way, for example, the team decided to try out Golang for some, tier 4 services. And that's great because then they can try stuff out, we can learn, and then maybe whenever we will need Golang for the tier 1 part, we can do it. But yeah, in general, CTOs coming in and starting with this, like, I don't like the language, I don't like this thing, let's rewrite. That's, I don't know, maybe that's me being, again, a dinosaur. I find it to be where techies don't understand as a CTO and any management of tech, it's a business role. You need to basically look at stuff and say, what is the business value of me now reinvesting all the people I have and their time to do something? And what do I get in return? What's the ROI? And the ROI for usually those things are nothing. It's vanity.
And coming back to like monoliths versus microservices, like, what was like, how did you, I mean, you like for sure didn't want to do it because you went through it like 100 times. And what did you end up with? Like, is it like a single monolithic application, or is it more like, are there like a few services and more like the medium-sized services, or like, what's your philosophy now?
So we are currently still work in progress. When we paused it, we are also pausing to look into it. We still have microservices because microservices were built around the monolith in general. So that's great. That's good progress. In general, what we started doing is more figuring it out. What is the abstractions of the team, right? What is where a team starts and ends as far as our code base, and try to really separate that. And once we can separate it, we basically can create a modular monolith. From that point on, we can separate the database also to have databases per something. And then we can ask, do we need those services to be disconnected? Then it's easy to disconnect. We can then decide to do event-driven or API based off synchronous or asynchronous topics, or we can just be okay with having a modular monolith. I am generally a big fan of modular monoliths. It's people think microservices are, I don't know, the best thing since sliced bread. I see overhead, right? Overhead means more deployments, more infrastructure team, more infrastructure problem. And it's great if you want to scale and you have like, crazy scalability issues where you need to scale one part but keep the other part low. But in general, like monorepo, monolith for the scale we're doing is actually not a bad fit. I don't want to now say it and then everyone in my team will stress out. It could be that we'll separate them into microservices. I'm not going to guarantee we're sticking with a monolith, but I think before you go microservices, DDD exercise of domain-driven design your situation first, because that's the first step. Then separate your modules, separate your data, and then you can actually see if you need to have any more work. That's kind of my take on this.
How big is your engineering team now?
It depends how we look at it. My software engineering team. So fun story. We just transitioned all our QAs to be software engineers. We moved away from manual QA with the word we say we will not talk about AI. So we'll have AI actually assisting our QAs to become software engineers. And at the end of the year, with some hiring, we'll be around 40 software engineers. We also have 20 people in the data team and about 20 people in the infra. So it's about 80 people right now.
So that's an effective team, I would say, or like it's the upper end of an effective setup, I would say.
Yeah, trying.
Still, you have some services like basically separated, or like how do you partition your team these days? Like how does that look like?
Yeah, we had this really awesome exercise before I joined, where we basically split the team into value streams, and the value streams are basically looking at the value chain and every bundle we can create of let's call this in the most extreme and best way, like a cross-functional team where we have software engineers, we have POs or product owners, but we also have business people, and we have all the necessary functions that are working for the same KPI, and we bundle them into one team, and we basically have 4 different bundles of that. So we have customer acquisitions, we have the banking relationship, we have the customer management after we convert, and those teams actually have everything they need to succeed, not just from software engineering, but all around. And that's also what we're trying to do now with the monolith, to modular it to those functions. So we basically won't be violating the Conway law, because for 16 years, we basically had one team doing everything. So the monolith looks exactly like that. And now we've reorged, but our code still looks the same. So we need to now slowly but surely make the code also fit the reality we live in.
So you basically like follow a flow-driven approach then now, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Sounds meaningful. One thing that I suspect you also hit when you came in was that like for sure there was Kubernetes.
A bit, yes, a bit.
And are you a fan of that?
To be honest, look, I am not a fan of Kubernetes to start with. I think it's by definition an overkill and it's a waste of time. I can share we talked about my previous employer, Delivery Hero. Kubernetes was a game changer for Delivery Hero because of the spikes. So the interesting part of food delivery quickly is I can put all my money all in every day and bet, and I will win most of the time because I know when you are going to eat lunch and dinner. Approximately. Yeah. So that spike exists everywhere. So you basically need that ability to deal with spikes and rapidly scale up and down. So you need elasticity. Kubernetes is really, really great at doing that. And I would say if your business is like in this spikiness and elasticity of the system, then by all means go for it. Otherwise, it's not just another abstraction. It's another learning point. It's another failing point. And if I will find myself with, again, talking to software engineers that are using liveness probe or readiness probe wrong and killing their system because of that, I would lose my mind. I had so many incidents in my career where people were doing a liveness or readiness check on the database, and then the database was basically slow. So the thing just started killing everything instead, which is the worst thing you want. So we basically say to the customer, due to the database being a bit slow, we will take off our software offline.
Yeah, we take it all offline.
Great win for me as a customer.
I think my first Kubernetes project was actually like moving some WordPress over onto Kubernetes. That was so horrible and took so much time. Well,
what
just because
was the
I
motivation?
I back in the days wanted to learn it, which was like absolutely the wrong approach and not really like very business driven.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it ultimately would say didn't pay off, and I would never do it again. And I think that's like really the extreme form of like the Kubernetes first syndrome, right?
Absolutely.
So
I mean, at least you learned something. It was fun.
sure, it was fun, but these days, like if someone tells me in an interview, "Hey, yes, I would like to use a vector database,"
Yeah.
for whatever, I don't know, and I don't know what it does. It potentially is the wrong techie to hire, right? How would you approach it these days? Like, would you if you would start your business from scratch, would you, I don't know, go to AWS and use as much platform as a service as you can, or as many services you could rent, or would you go to Hetzner and buy some bare metal, or like what would be your like those two extremes are, or maybe like even one more with, I don't know, Fly.io or whatever. Where would you go?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know because it depends on what business I would go to. Again, like I think like I'm a big fan of cloud for elasticity, scalability, and the ease of use. But oh my God, it's so expensive. And it gets really expensive really quickly. And when you start with it, you're not even, I don't know. I have a general feeling that the business model of AWS and GCP and all those cloud providers is also built on the idea that people don't know what they're doing, and people will just do dumb mistakes as well. And that's why it's really profitable. And also large companies kind of don't care because, I don't know, optimizing 10% of whatever, 10 million annual cost for a company like that, where they're probably making billions and billions, is not like a big cost factor for them. So they don't care. So all those things are tricky because I've been to the bare metal world where I had people working on bare metal, and it's tons of work. And, you know, I don't want to find myself again in a life where I need to go and buy hard drives and go to a server room and then basically increase the disk size by literally putting more the hard drives. Yeah. But on the other side, I think Hetzner is solving a really good problem there, where you basically find your midterm solution. In general, unless I really am going high scale, super elastic environment, I'd probably go with like one of those Hetzner where I'm just going to rent a rack and start from there. And then maybe I'll move to the cloud. I've seen there is, what's his name?
DHH or
yes,
David Heinemann's?
Yeah, exactly. Where he's like pushing hard. And also, God damn it, sorry for the language, but the Twitter story of Elon Musk going in, taking servers with like U-Haul trucks from a data center and moving away from that to their own bare metal data center is also kind of crazy. And it was a crazy cost reduction as well. So
yeah. But I think like you can say like it really depends on your workloads, right? And
correct.
You now have relatively stable workloads, I assume, or do you have like really spiky workloads?
No, I have a stable workload.
And that means that like if you would start from scratch now, like you had the chance, would you go for bare metal plus Kubernetes, or would you go for something different? Like what would be your...
I would probably go Hetzner, just because I would like to kind of at least reduce my overhead as far as employees.
Yeah.
As I said, like I don't want to go into a server room. But yeah, probably bare metal, relatively easy to use. I don't think I'd find myself in AWS for that specific account.
You're also private equity backed, right? So that's the difference. You need to like earn some money or generate EBITDA.
Absolutely. I mean, generally, companies should aspire.
Should ideally. I mean, that's what we learned in the last 2 years, I would say, right?
Absolutely. No longer we are pushing for burning every capital possible without regards of anything. Yes, that's a nice thing to actually have companies making money, profiting. It's not a bad thing.
I remember, like, I don't know, I don't mention at which company it was, but I once had a team where someone was really in an all hands, developer all hands, presenting that they are now top one of the most cloud cost producing team list. Someone was very proud of that fact. Like, hey, we're now on number one. And I said, well, what is wrong here? Like,
crazy.
How do you? I guess you also then like introduced FinOps at auxmoney at a certain point. If there was no CTO, then most likely there was no one really like creating awareness for cloud costs. Well, how was your approach there? And how high was the cloud cost when you started? How is it now? Like just roughly?
Yeah. So my approach honestly was figuring out what are the low-hanging fruit, because there is when you start with this type of role, you also need to figure out what are the battles you want to fight and what are the battles you want to let your future self handle. That wasn't really a battle that I wanted to start, but there were tons of low-hanging fruit. So on that side, at least, I just talked to the platform team. We reviewed our cost. Our cost was approximately $120K a month. And we just started basically in a very simple level saying, we can actually reduce it quite heavily by almost not doing anything. And very simple approach, started looking into our cost levers, right? So you go into your AWS Cloud account and you basically start seeing, and I saw S3 cost was $10K a month. Why is S3 cost so high? Like storage is really cheap. We don't store a lot. We realized that we have backups of the database that were just not
forever.
Yeah. Boom, 10K reduced approximately. So we did it like this really simple exercise. Just looked every place we have, and as we're just seeing that the costs started dropping without interfering to the team, because we just never had a FinOps, right? So we never actually had proper tagging where we saw exactly what we have. So we just look at it from like a macro level, not a micro level, not what the team owns. Rather, RDS is this, EC2 is this. We don't see what's another deeper stack into that. But this will be the future for us. It's actually proper tagging, allocating costs to the team. And in my general opinion, part of software engineering in a good way, and that's a muscle I got from a former guest you had here, Christian Harrenberg, is reviewing your costs is part of the engineering work. So a delivery hero, for example, every 2 weeks, I sat with my vice president, or later when I reported to the CTO, and we looked at my costs and why they're high, and if there's trending up or trending down, but I'm not talking about absolute cost. I'm talking cost per transaction. Mm-hmm. And in general, they should most of the time trend down, because with large scale and with proper engineering, you can have spikes if you're building something new, but when you're a big company and most of the things you're maintaining, you're building a service per X amount of time, you should basically also be able to, you're in the third phase of development where you build it right, you optimize. Big companies, in many cases, you're in the you optimize phase. So yeah, that's kind of auxmoney, but also more on the, maybe I'm kind of trying to warn my team. Very soon, we will start having proper tagging, my friends. We'll start actually looking into the costs.
And then you also introduce a metric like, cloud cost per dollar you rent, you lend, right?
Yeah,
something
exactly. Yeah. Cost per transaction would be great. Yes, cost per loan, let's say, would be a good one. Yeah,
cost per dollar.
Cost per dollar. Yeah, yeah, that would be amazing. But yeah, but on the good side, I think we are now currently at approximately 85-ish K AWS, and I'm pretty sure we can get to 50K a month.
And if you move to Headster, you get to 10, right?
Headster would be no money. I'll need to nuke my roadmap for the next 2 years, but basically, yes.
Okay, I moved everything to one single server. It's like a bit overdimensioned, but it runs like the database plus the web service.
Exactly.
Services. Yeah, good idea. Good idea. I think, you work for Delivery Hero. Like, I think one smart guy, like I once asked like a very smart guy who worked there, like, if you were me and now you would like, maintain 22 SaaS companies, like what would you centralize? And he said, nothing. I wouldn't centralize a thing. I don't believe in centralization. And I think you also centralized a lot there.
Correct.
That's, I think, in like an open secret. And there is a lot of platform engineering happening.
Yeah.
So, after like data science being now, I don't know, maybe dissolved a bit through like also LLMs entering, like is platform engineering the new ivory tower?
Oof. To be fair, let's start with your quote here with this person. I guess I know the same person and I know the same quote. I think I would still centralize some things. I think when you talk about SaaS topics, it's easier to centralize, where you create like APIs, for example, that many companies can use because it gives a similar service, more configurable, easier-ish. I'm not saying
someone has to maintain it, right?
Correct. Like, exactly.
Yeah, you need to own it.
Yeah, exactly. I think the general thing is, we have a team that does it. Now we will have a team that will do it for 22 companies. You probably need 3 teams to do that for 22 companies. The complexity is crazy, and there's a metric of configuration that becomes really difficult to test, to maintain, and you also want it to run properly, and you also want to build features for companies. So it's not like a cost reduction one-to-one. It's really far from it. And in general, unless it's a really huge cost, I would also not centralize, just to kind of be fair. I'm not a fan of centralization as well. I think the point where I really, really, really wouldn't touch are the platform engineering part. My general impression is, I don't know, you are a group CTO. I'm also a group CTO myself. Every team uses different software. They have different processes, and platform engineering is like software engineering is basically a reflection of how customers use your software and your organizational design. Platform engineering is how developers write code and the processes they have. So then when you try to centralize platform engineering, it becomes a massive nightmare, in my opinion, because you try to now silver bullet the deployment process that will touch many platforms, probably a couple of different cloud providers, code bases, observability, all those things. I would not touch that, really. I would just make sure that platform engineering are sitting with their team, kind of keeping them close to the reality. Because the other part that I see, and you kind of touched base on it when you said it's an ivory tower, if the platform engineers are now no longer working with the developers, it's the same as, I don't know, what old school developers that don't understand their customers and just build stuff for fun. You'll get the same thing, only you just destroy your developer experience, which is just insane.
Yeah, I think if you do that, you have to basically try to solve business problems, really, absolutely, right? Or like, let's say cost problems, right? Like, let's say I have, I don't know, 800K in S3 costs at one company, then I can tackle that. And maybe ultimately it ends up in like in an S3 close to S3 service that I can offer to others as well. But it's more like a marketplace, or it has to be more like a marketplace than and like finding a silver bullet, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the best thing to look in those things is you mentioned it, and I think that's great. It's our job at the end of the day as C-levels and CTOs, but still C-levels, it's a business job. If there is a business ROI that we can quantify, then it's worth it. And it's also our job. It's my favorite thing to say about our job is just managing risks. If it's not like insane risk and insane effort, by all means, I'm all for it. I want to reduce costs. I'm a very frugal person myself in real life, not just in my job. But always if there's something I learned, and that's something, the cost we save versus the opportunity that we can do to invest in this on the business side on something else, it has to be compared. And that's where I think having a good product counterpart or a really good C-level team to also say, you can save 800, but we can also invest in this thing, and there is a market cap here of, I don't know how many billions, and we can tap into 50% of that. So it's worth more investing. So it's always that dance, and it's a good dance to have. And I think maybe a good advice for managers in tech in general is to look at this from the business side.
Sure. I mean, often there is not that billion market you can quickly tap into, right?
I mean, I just gave
if you're really honest, and that's also really hard to really like attribute it correctly. If you do that instead, like I see many companies like investing into diverse things and never really looking at the ROI. But yeah, I assume you're different at auxmoney.
I mean, we are not different. I mean, to be honest, there's a lot of gut feeling, and I don't think everything needs to be fully quantified. I'm generally, though, would always come to try to say, look, at least for me in tech, it's easier. I can say, I can save this amount. And this is the data I have. And then someone say, well, we have this, I don't know, this insane ability to do something. And of course, it never hits really. And it's always like questions, but there comes let's say that there is a 1% chance that is true. And a 99% that it isn't. It's still worth exploring, probably more than, I don't know, most of the time, me cutting some costs, because I can always cut those costs later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Next buzzword I wanted to touch with you is velocity. What's your immediate reaction if someone tells you about the velocity? Like, what's your dev velocity?
I laugh as I did right now. For me, velocity honestly is one of those things that is actually kind of great from what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a discussion, right? Like some of us talk about something, we give numbers because, I don't know, let's say I think a feature is a 3, you think it's a 7. And then I say, why I think it's a 3.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a 7, and then I realize, oh, you actually are right. I didn't think about this thing. Amazing. And then later came, the agile coaches and the industry, and they started to say, oh, this is a metric. We can now look at all those numbers and say, this team produces 42 points every sprint. But the reality is, what is 42 points? And what is a 7? And what is a 3? It's nothing. It's just common language we created. And a different team might deliver 13 points. And then we say, if 42 points is bigger than 13, that's a better team. But in reality, maybe the 13-point team is actually defining their 3 and 7s differently, or they're actually touching different systems that are a bit more complicated. So we kind of started assuming weird stuff on velocity. So I'm generally a big fan of estimations. I know there is a trend to not to. I think estimations for the sake of conversations, let's do it. Estimations for the metric, I'm not a fan. I'm grumpy CTO, say let's kill it.
No burn down charts for you.
No, I mean, in general, not a fan of any of those things. I have a lovely story, if I may. 14-ish years ago, so when I was in Israel, so more than 11 years for sure. I remember, and I've told that to every team I've been to since. I had a CTO that decided to do a productivity metric, had screens everywhere in the office where it was personal commits per developer, and you can see who's number 1 every day. For a month, until he gave up on this insane task, every developer, all of us, every line we wrote, enter commit. We started using C# type of indentation, where you basically, you do the curly bracket, you break a line. You don't have it on the same line. You break every line. Everyone had hundreds, if not thousands of lines of commits every day. And then the thing is, the minute you start giving numbers and you tell people that it's productivity metrics, we will just gamify it, all of us, because at the end of the day, we all know it's ridiculous. We all know it doesn't mean anything. And in my opinion, most of development work is done when you think about things and not when you necessarily write code. Best developers I've known were people that wrote less code and solved more problems and more reduced code that they didn't need. So it's tricky. I wouldn't touch those things.
So what's a valid metric then to measure the productivity of a team or the quality of a team?
To me, and that's a very much to me thing, I think Dora metrics is a really good system, and I would recommend to people to explore it. I'm not like a Dora metric as a religion type of person. From Dora metrics, I like 2 metrics specifically. I like change failure rate. So the idea is, when you go to production, did you have to revert? Did you have to roll forward? There was a hot fix, or did you just fire and forget? I think that's a percentage of good quality and good, basically, automation. It kind of reflects a lot about the processes, the level of automation, and everything. So basically kind of summarize it into one thing. And for me, that's positive. And the other one for me is, I like to look at a team when things are tough. So when there is an incident, what is the mean time to recover? So for me, a mean time to recover means the team, if it's a good one, like let's say a 15 to 20 minute number would be a good number for me. it means that one, we have enough testing and we can roll back quickly. We respond quickly. The team is on it. So they're like motivated. We have good tooling to also inform them that something is happening. So it kind of presents that they have probably good observability, or they have something that actually is good error logging and so on. And they are able to adjust quickly and fix. So if it's not the case, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it lets me ask questions. And for me, those metrics, again, I'm not going to say that the team with a 15-minute MTTR, a mean time to recover, is the best team. It's just usually will be a team that I would ask questions, get answers, and be like, thing is fine. If I see a team with a 2 hours mean time to recover, I'm just going to say, hey, what's going on? What is missing? What is the response time? So it helps me kind of look deeply into the team. Because, and you know that is, again, like you have tons of people in your org with, 22 companies, right? It's your time. You need to spread it between so many different people. So I don't know, what are your favorite? What are your go-tos? Because I also want to learn here. What do you do with such a diverse kind of org?
I think like what you just mentioned. So mean time to recovery, like really like looking at incidents per team and then the time to recover is a good thing. Plus, I believe that in DORA metrics, I'm not sure if it's really like valid. I mean, you can, I don't know, if you're looking like really top down at a company and you want to figure out if there are any people not contributing, then yes, you can look at commits, etc., and pull requests. I also like pull requests as like a general like orientation. But I think it's also not a silver bullet, so you can't really like do it long term, but rather like just that, like if you want to like do a quick health check, and then I think it's more like actually business metrics that get more important, like output or outcome per employee, basically, like what like how many people do you need to generate $1 of revenue, and how like the relative cloud costs, how does that look like to get like a feeling for the health of a company, basically. And then, I don't believe in story points. I believe in also surveys or survey-driven approaches, like Spotify health check, basically. That's one thing. And also recently, like, question is really like, how do you want to actually encourage people to use AI to code or not, right? And how can you drive that change, right? How can you like generate appetite in something? That for me is really crucial. And really like what right now like bothers me a lot, like how can you, I don't know, I like, for example, the command line tool, Anthropic's command line tool, Cloud Code, right? I like that a lot, but if I like it, it's just me. Like, how do I teach others to use it properly, and how do I drive adoption of that? How do I drive adoption of best practice, right? That's really a key question that bothers me a lot.
That's one of the tougher things, right? Like in general, something that we're also kind of in a good way are playing with right now at auxmoney is cursor, and I think in a good way, and I think usually adoption is that mix of top down and bottom up. We have people that were excited about it. I was excited about it, and you just pair with those people, and you get to let them and let their excitement kind of like be spread like wildfire in the org, right? So what we did is we had a very strong tech lead that said, okay, I've been playing with cursor at home. I think it's a game changer. Can I onboard it for a POC with my team? And I'm already a fan. So I was like, absolutely, yes. That team started using it. And then other people started reaching out and saying, hey, can we also use it? Can we also join this POC? And then, as I mentioned already, we're transitioning the QAs to software developers. And we said, okay, let's give it to the QAs. Why not? Every QA can get it. And yesterday we opened it to the entire company. So everyone now has a cursor account. So it can just spread bottom up in that sense.
Yeah.
It's not always the case. Bottom up doesn't work all the time. But in that case, I was lucky to, find a couple of people that were super into it and basically became the people on the ground that were like, spreading the word, spreading the Lord's word with everyone else.
Yeah. I think that's a good approach because like I don't know, like many companies, I don't know, give Copilot to everyone and then like you end up having basically no usage because you don't like really see the appetite, and basically potentially this is also not, it doesn't have product market fit really. Like I don't know about like Copilot these days, like no offense, but maybe it's not so easy. It's not like a tool you can throw over the fence and then everyone will start using it, right?
It improved immensely. I think I played with Copilot a month ago, so nothing insane. It's way, way better. It's no longer like a upgraded IDE like it was in the beginning. But honestly, right now, Cursor for me, at least from what I checked, is really above and beyond. And the hallucinations are also, I think the biggest problem I had with Copilot is it had weird hallucinations about a very old and weird code base. A 17-year-old code base is a tricky one, no matter what you do. And no throwing shade at anyone who's building it. It's a representation of the business changing itself. As you mentioned, we were a peer-to-peer company and we kind of shifted, we pivoted. It reflects in the code, but in the code, like many things, it's when we shifted and pivoted, most likely it was quick and we had to quickly change the code, and those things still exist. They linger. And so with Copilot, I had tons of times where I was kind of like trying to figure out how do I do something, and it told me about classes I didn't have and how I can improve stuff by removing something that does not exist. I think Cursor actually has a much better way to index that, and at least from the team that the response and the feedback I'm getting right now from people is it's much easier to work with. So let's see with Copilot. Honestly, I wouldn't write Microsoft off, but also, I don't know. I wouldn't also not put it beyond them to basically buy Cursor at some point because it's just like a Visual Studio Code fork. Who knows?
It's a crazy world out there. I mean, basically, I don't know. Cursor could already be dead in 2 weeks, and like someone killed it through just like having a new approach that everyone jumps on. Then it's worse than like this. Like you remember like the single page web app world when it like all started off and everyone said, "Oh, Google is doing this. Let me also jump on that." Right? Like same how also I don't know Kubernetes was initially hyped. And there was like a new build tool every day. And to me, it feels like there's a tool you can subscribe to for $20 a month every day. So your tool belt as a typical developer these days could cost you easily like $500, and like that would be an okay tool belt, right?
A phenomenal one, honestly. You kind of touch base. I have those memories of moving from Knockout.js to Angular 2 that became Angular 4 to React to then Vue to then React again in a span of 4 years. And then I used all the terminal deployment, the grunt, the whatever other ones. Every couple of days we changed those.
There was a new one, yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. It feels like this is our version of what's going on with AI right now. Only, I don't know. The AI part is the 4 years I just talked about happened in the last 6 months.
Yes.
That is insane. Yeah, I absolutely.
And it will continue. I mean, everyone's jumping on that like code generation train. I think that won't stop in the next years. And like really curious to know what will happen there. But yeah, we didn't want to do an AI podcast. Like not another one. How about like, I mean, a fintech company that exists for 17 years without a CTO? Like, how does security look like in that setup? Like, what was, I don't know, did you have like any crazy security moments, any crazy finds, any crazy picks, anything?
No. To be honest, on the good parts of this, we have a really good enterprise risk management team, and we've had a really good security person from the cybersecurity side of the tech team. So for those years, very good, a very good job done. As I said, it's always the question is what got us here will not get us to the future. So now we also, in a very good way, hired an information security officer. And we are now working for the future part, which is to fortify us a bit more. And I know we said no AI, but this is one of those AI problems that everyone, now when you use AI code, there is this supply chain hacking where, you have those libraries that the AI hallucinates, and hackers now actually are piggybacking onto that. And now will be a real problem when you write software where you have a team that accidentally just calls a library that doesn't really exist. And then someone piggybacks on that and it becomes a Trojan horse. So we need to figure out how to fortify those type of hacks now, which is crazy if you think about that. So AI is such a great thing, but also has tons of different problems from tons of different angles. If you talk about GDPR and data, but also if you talk about cybersecurity. I read recently, I don't remember what it was. It was a huge supply chain hack with fake libraries hallucinated libraries, basically, just crazy. So you need to, insane. 6 months again. We're talking about 6 months. The world is changing.
Yeah, that's super crazy. Like looking forward, or not so much to what will happen with security in the next
Absolutely.
2 months.
Absolutely. But also in a very much cliched way, to be fair, we will also take the route of ISO 27001. So we now got an information security officer. Yeah, I know. Not the topic I would love to talk about, with like having a beer with a friend in a bar. But for a fintech company, to building trust with the customers, and also, going back into this direction of we're no longer a startup. We are now a profitable company. We're doing well. We need to also start adhering to those standards. So ISO 27001 is something that we have in our information security officer, and we're starting the path of getting there. And everyone who's not in fintech, you're all lucky that you don't need to go through that. It's not fun.
So what was your last, let's say, tool you discovered and then basically annoyed everyone with, in your dev team? Is there anything? I tend to every once in a while discover something and then tell everyone about it. Hey, you have to look at this. This is better than sliced bread. Is there anything that you figured out recently that everyone should know here?
Not really. I'm trying to think about that. Maybe yes. I'm not sure. I'm annoying my team quite a lot, so it's hard. I know. Oh, I got it. I know. Incident.io is something that we are now bringing into our org. I'm a big fan of Incident.io. We were looking into Jira Managed Service, and I think I had the two, my director, Robert, and Hugo, one of the team leads, were showing me how it looks like, and all of us were like, someone over a weekend will need to go and click in Jira to create tickets for an incident. And I thought, I will never let an engineer go through this nightmare. I'm putting myself in my engineering head when I was waking up at 3 a.m. or something because of an incident. And I was like, I would never want to go to Jira to do that. And I think putting everything on Slack, the thing just explains itself, takes all the information you're putting in a channel, summarizes it for you. I'm a big fan of Incident.io. I've been annoying a lot of people about Incident.io. So yes, actually I did.
How big of a fan of Jira are you?
Not a fan. We're using it. It works. But if I could nuke it, I would.
Yeah, switching ticketing solutions, also a classic thing that
and you can't trust the ones, right? That absolutely. But I had this a long time ago. I used Pivotal Trucker. I really liked it. It's dead now. It doesn't exist anymore. So, Atlassian, for better or worse, it's probably going to stick around for a while.
But for many GitHub issues, it's also good enough, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a fan of that. So Raz, we're slowly coming to the end. I still have a little surprise for you. I bought a new car it's like a DeLorean, and it's not just a DeLorean, it's the DeLorean, and like super straightforward. We can now use it to travel back in time, and like where should we travel to? Like, what is more exciting than Tel Aviv in the year of 2010? And you're at that point still working in QA, starting Selenium scripts and wondering if you should jump to dev.
Yeah.
And if you had like one sentence you could whisper to your younger self, what would it be?
Honestly, don't jump into leadership before you got the dev bug out of your system. I did that and then went back to being a developer, which was a mistake. And also, don't look at the QA time as a fault, because it took me, I was like 2 to 3 years as a QA. It well-rounded me. So see it as a positive thing, because I think made me a much better manager. I look at things from the customer side and not from how the backend talks to itself. So I would actually give myself a nice, cheer me a bit, because I think at that point in 2010, I was so eager to become a developer. I was basically annoying every manager possible to give me the opportunity. And now I look at it and it was, I think, one of the best educations I've received in my career. And then later, jumping into tech leadership before I had this thing where I was like, I still just wanted to write code. I was a really bad manager for my first go. I really just didn't care about the people part of the tech leadership, right? You have the product, the process, the people, and the tech. I didn't care about the product, the process, or the people the first go on. I just wanted to write code. And this is where you kind of start actually impacting other people. So
it's semi-optimal, yeah. Okay, now many CTOs will go back to coding. Thank you, Raz, for that. No, but I think like actually it will happen anyway that many CTOs jump back to coding in a way. Like if you look at the AI hype, then or not hype, AI happenings, then like for many of us, it's super interesting to get our hands dirty again, right?
Absolutely. At least
thanks a lot.
Vibe code, right? Like this is the different part. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, for us, like vibe coding is a bit different, I think. Like, thanks a lot, Raz.
Thanks so much, Tobi.
And like, hope to see you soon at some dinner somewhere in Berlin or Hamburg or whatever. And have a great day. It was really fun talking to you.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
We weren't super grumpy, but grumpy enough, right?
Yeah, I think it was good. You need to be happy when you're grumpy. Otherwise, it's just depressing.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the AlphaList podcast. If you liked this episode, share it with friends. I'm sure they love it too. Make sure to subscribe so you can hear deep insights into technical leadership and technology trends as they become available. Also, please tell us if there is a topic you would like to hear more about or a technical leader whose brain you would like us to pick. AlphaList is all about helping CTOs getting access to the insights they need to make the best decisions for their company. Please send us suggestions to cto@alphalist.com. Send me a message on LinkedIn or Twitter. After all, the more knowledge we bring to CTOs, the more growth we see in tech. Or, as we say on AlphaList, accumulated knowledge to accelerate growth. See you in the next episode.
Dieser Podcast wird produziert von Podstars bei OMR.